Hello grade 12s. Today we have a look at how to interpret pie charts and scatter plots. This pie chart shows the number of children on ARVs around the world in 2010 and 2011. Let's analyze them together. There were 447,800 children receiving ARVs in 2010 and 566,200 in 2011. You will notice in the graph that 88% of the children receiving ARVs are in Africa. 6% are in the southeast. Let's use these pie charts to answer some questions. Firstly, let's determine which part of the world receives the largest amount of ARVs. The African region is represented with the biggest slice in both graphs. This shows that the children in this area received the most ARVs. Now, let's look at how many children received ARVs in the region of the Americas in 2010. To do this, we need to calculate the actual number of children receiving the drugs. In 2010, there were 447,800 children given ARVs, and 4% of them were from the Americas. 4 divided by 100 multiplied by 447,800 equals 17,912 children from the Americas. Now let's determine which region had the largest increase in the 2 years displayed by the graphs. We can see that Africa had an increase of 3% from 2010 to 2011. Finally, we can use this data to argue that the distribution of ARVs was not fair. This requires us to analyze the data more thoughtfully. We are only given data about the children using ARVs which are not enough to make any reasonable arguments concerning the fairness of the program. We need to know how many children needed the ARVs to compare with those that received them. Now let's take a look at how to draw and interpret the scatter plots. Scatter plots are used to show a relationship between two sets of data. For example, hours spent studying versus test results, or the load weight carried by a truck versus fuel consumption. Plotting data on a scatter plot diagram shows trends in the data. We treat matching pairs of data as coordinates and plot them as single points. All these points are called a scatter plot. The whole idea is to find out if there is any relationship or correlation between the two sets of data. Let's look at an example about Jabu, who's worried about his physical science marks and the time he spends studying. He wants to know if the amount of time spent studying is related to the test marks. He records the two sets of data on a table. The time he spent studying for each test is recorded in the first row, and his percentage for the test is shown in the second row. To draw a scatter plot, we need to decide on which axis we must put our two sets of data. Jabu wants to know if the hours he spent studying affect his marks. We will put hours spent studying on the horizontal axis and test marks on the vertical axis. This means that the hours spent studying should go on the horizontal axis and his marks should be on the vertical axis. The points are plotted but not joined. After drawing the scatter plot, we analyze if the data is correlated by looking at how the points are scattered in our graph. We can see that there is a pattern formed by the points. The points look like they can form a line. We can therefore say that there's a strong positive correlation between the two sets of data, and it shows that the more time he spends studying, the higher his marks are. This point doesn't seem to fit the trend. It shows that he spent 2 hours studying and got 30%. Points like these that don't fit the trend are called outliers. There are many reasons why this point is part of our data. It could be wrong recording, or perhaps the test was very difficult for him. We always analyze the strength of a relationship between two sets of data in the scatter plot by looking at how close the points are into forming a straight line. If the line goes up, the correlation is positive. If the line goes down, then the correlation is negative. If the points are too far apart to draw any line, then we say that there is no correlation. Thank you for joining us, grade 12s, and remember to look at the advanced data handling task video. You will also learn more about data handling on our website www.mindset.co.za/learn. Goodbye.